Hold on. Of course, as soon as I come out here, they decide to do that. Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so very excited to have you here today. In honor of Thanksgiving, I decided that I wanted to sit down, chat with you just a little bit about all of the books that I am thankful for. These aren't necessarily going to be all thankful in a good way, some of them are going to be thankful in a bad way, and honestly I haven't really thought about any of the books that I want to include in this video, so I am just going to kind of be checking those and just thinking about some stuff here and there as it comes to mind, because if it doesn't come to mind, then I'm probably not that thankful for it. First and foremost, I don't think that it would be okay for me to do all of this and not tell you that I am thankful for my favorite book series, and that is the After series. If you know me, like genuinely know me, you know that I absolutely hate saying that that's my favorite series. I really truly do. And it's not anything against the author or anything in the book necessarily. It's really just the fact that it is so not something that I would normally enjoy. Like, if I were to pick this book up right now and read it for the first time, I genuinely don't think that I would like it that much. I think I would just think it was okay. Probably that it was a little bit too long, you know, whatever. I'm sure any of you that don't like the book, I would probably think the same thing as y'all are thinking. But since I decided to read this book before it even came out, like back in high school, I cannot get this book out of my brain. I just can't do it. I literally cannot do it. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I think my main thing with this book was that at the time of me reading it, I was kind of going through a relationship that felt similar to the relationship that was going on in that book. So if you've read it, you know that it's Hardin and Tessa, and he is not really capable of giving her the love that she is asking for and wanting. And she keeps begging for it and is like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And he's like, yes, I promise I'll do that. Like, I'll change, whatever. And then never does. And so to me, I kind of related to that very heavily, because to me it was so simple. If I'm like, hey, you know, this is something that's bothering me, can you fix that? And then you say, yeah, of course, whatever, then you just do it. But that wasn't the case. So for me, I did kind of resonate heavily with their relationship. Obviously, I shouldn't have been in the relationship, but that's okay. It is what it is. I'm not going to complain, because who knows, that could have been a very direct impact on how I met Nicholas and all that stuff. So I'm not going to say I regret anything. That's just past, right? But I think for me, that since I felt very connected to that, I really did enjoy the book that much more. I did feel very intertwined in the characters, and again, since I felt very attached to it in the sense of I am feeling these same things, these same feelings, these same emotions, I'm going through the same issues as the characters in this book, I really just clung to it that much more. Therefore, I can't escape it. I genuinely can't. And I would say this is probably the first book in my reading journey. I used to read a lot in high school. In high school, I used to work at a gym, and so I did the opening shift, so I got there at like 4 in the morning. That's whenever I actually opened the gym. And I would just sit there all day until right before I went to school. I really didn't have anything to do. There was only like one actual piece of work that I had to do. Other than that, it was just stand there and say hi to everybody and try not to fall asleep at the front counter, and if somebody needs something, try to help them out. I mean that was genuinely it. I'm not really signing many people up for memberships at 4 in the morning. I wanted to look productive. I don't know what my problem is, but if I am on my phone while I'm at work, I don't want people to see me unless if I feel like I'm doing something somewhat productive. So if I'm on my phone at work and I'm just scrolling through Instagram and someone comes in, I'm like, ooh, don't look at me. Like, I don't want you to see. But if I'm reading a book on my phone and you come in and you see, it doesn't really matter to me, because I feel like that's being productive. Is that weird? Probably. That's just what it was. It's how I operate, I guess. It's super dumb, but so I would read a lot of books on my phone, and I read that book, I read the whole series, and then I would read some other stuff, then I would come back and read that again. And I want to say I read that probably 6 times on my phone. Ish, roughly, we'll say. And then last year in like around May, I think I ended up just ordering the book series on Amazon. It was like $20 for all 5 of the books, so I just went ahead and did that. Got them all, I reread them, and then I was like, you know what, I really want to try something different, because I've been just rereading these over and over and over again. I would read them, and then I'd be done with it, and then whenever I wanted to read a book again, I would go back and I would reread the series all over again, and it was just a cycle. I continued to do that over and over and over again. Then I decided that I wanted to just try to find some other stuff. I was like, you know what, I really want to get back into it, like, wholeheartedly, full force, just jump back into reading books. And I was also at the point where I was more okay with the thought of buying books. I don't know what my deal was, but I guess back in high school I just didn't really think anything of going to the bookstore and buying books or going and looking at books. That thought didn't really cross my mind. So I read a lot of books on Wattpad. Some of them are good. There was some that I really enjoyed, actually, but the problem is a lot of those books were just fan fiction spice type books, and that's not necessarily my favorite thing ever. If you've been here for a bit, that's not necessarily something that I'm super into. Every now and then, if it just is done right, I don't mind it and I'm good with it, but other than that, it's just whatever. So I would try to read a bunch of other stuff, like sci-fi books or thriller books and stuff, but it was at that point where they were starting to introduce paying for the books, and I didn't really want to pay for something that other people were writing kind of for fun. I don't know. That was my thought process at the time. But I did decide to finally go ahead and get some other books. I started on Book of the Month. I finally read a book from there. I did really enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite book ever, of course. I think I ended up giving it like a 3 stars. But I did enjoy that, and I was like, you know what? I kind of think that there are other books out here. There isn't just the After series. There's other things that I can read that I'll enjoy as well. So that kind of sparked my reinterest into the book world, but I do have to give a big thankful shout out to the After series. It's not the greatest series ever. It's not written very well at all, and it is a fan fiction. I'm embarrassed to say that it's my favorite. I do like it, so I am thankful for them. Then I do have to give another uncalled for shout out. I know that people are probably going to be irritated or upset or whatever, or people are going to disagree, and that's totally fine, because at the end of the day, these books aren't my favorite by any means. But I am thankful for the Colleen Hoover books and the co-host stands, because when that started going viral on TikTok and blowing up, that did really push me farther into the wanting to read more and trying to read other books other than the series that I'd been reading for the past like 4 or 5 years. So seeing all those people really kind of come together and hype up all of these books, whether or not they're good, it's not what I'm talking about, but most people did kind of collectively come together and hype up Colleen Hoover. They kind of created the whole book talk thing, and that took off. And after seeing that and seeing people really enjoy reading and finding all these books that they said are 5 stars and they're really great, these are the best books they've ever read, it did kind of push me to want to get some other things, and I think that was definitely a big step forward, a big push me through the door in my reading journey, which I am very grateful for. Now again, I'm not a huge Colleen Hoover person. I've read some books from hers that are good. I've read some that I just don't like at all, and that's fine. I know a lot of people don't like her stuff. I know a lot of people do. I'm just saying that I'm thankful for all the people that push all of her books on Book Talk. Seeing all these people rave about those books, that definitely has given me that extra leg up into finding books that I really do like, finding books that I really can't stand, and the whole 9. So that being said, thankful for the Colleen Hoover books, and I am thankful for just all of the original Book Talk books in general, as well as those creators that have made any of those videos that I did see, and they did help propel me into this lovely book world that I am now consumed by.
Hello.
Hello.
Megan, it's not snowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like crystalline. And it's like coating the ground.
Yeah, like ice balls?
But like, no, not ice balls. It's like, it literally looks like there's glitter falling from the sky. I don't even know how it's like glitter.
Sorry, we had a lovely little interruption from Nicholas. We FaceTime for a little bit. But I'm back, and I'm picking up right where I left off, hopefully. So we got all the Book Talk books and the Book Talk creators and the my favorite book series out of the way. So now we get to just kind of jump into all of the other books that I've read so far and have not read yet. So after that, the first book that I want to thank is Stacey Willingham's All the Dangerous Things. That is the first book after I read the After series that I ended up giving a 5 stars. That wasn't the first mystery or thriller book that I read, but that was the first book after I got back into reading. That was the first book after the After series that I gave a 5 stars to. I read that book, I want to say, in like a day. I just sat there and I devoured the book. I loved it. I sat there and I talked the entire plot to Nicholas whenever he got home. I was just enthralled in the book. I absolutely loved it. It was so fantastic. And I had read a thriller book previously to that, and I did really enjoy it. Ironically, it was about a detective, and that's the only book with a detective that I've read in it that I actually enjoyed. The first book that I read with a detective was the only one that I liked. And that was saying something. It wasn't my favorite book, but I did actually really enjoy it. Again, I did give it a 3 stars, just because the entire plot wasn't necessarily my favorite thing ever, and I didn't love the detective necessarily, but I still did like it. And again, that was like the first book that I read getting back into reading, and I did really like it. I knew that I already wanted to read some more thrillers after that. I just didn't really know where to start or anything. So I got All the Dangerous Things from Book of the Month, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. I literally could not stop talking to anybody about it. I texted all my book friends. I was like, oh my gosh, this book is fantastic. I'm obsessed with it. You should probably read it. And I couldn't stop thinking about this book for weeks. I was like, nothing's ever gonna beat this. I didn't want to pick up a book after that because it was so good. It was so good. I loved it. Then the book after that I picked up was another mystery book with a detective in it, and it literally sucked. it really sucked. I'm sorry. But I will give another shout out to Missing and Endangered by J.A. Janis, because that was the first book that I just didn't like. Genuinely. I mean, it wasn't bad, it just, I didn't really get it at all. And I am thankful that, that was the first one that I just didn't like, because it gave me the realization that I do not like detective books. Like, at all. I really don't. So I am very thankful to that. After reading this book, I probably will not pick up another book with a detective in it. I know that I have picked up one since then, and I have DNF'd it as of right now. So that's saying something. This book was about a mom that was on the police force. She was a detective, one of the two, I don't really remember, but her daughter goes to college with this other girl, and the girl meets this guy online, and they're talking, they're sending pictures spicy pictures back and forth to each other. Something happens between the two, I don't remember, but her pictures ended up getting leaked to the entire school along with her family. They are a very strict family, and so that was just not in the cards for her. I don't even think she was allowed to have a cell phone at this point. I think she secretly had a phone, something like that. It just was crazy. And then she goes missing, and the mom gets tasked with trying to find her. At least that's what the blurb on the inside of the book said, right? So the entirety of the blurb on the inside is about the roommate that has gone missing, and then the last sentence was talking about if she was going to be able to help find her while she's already working on another case. So I was like, okay, it's going to be mainly about the girl missing, right? And then maybe little bits and pieces of this other case, which I didn't even think about that until after I reread the front cover a couple times, because we were talking about this other case and I didn't even remember that there was another case until I went back and reread it. And when I tell you the entirety of the book was about that other case, and there was probably 4 to 5 chapters about the missing roommate. 4 to 5 chapters, and I want to say this book was probably 20, 30 something chapters. I just remember being flabbergasted. I didn't understand at all why the entirety of the book said that it was about this one part when it wasn't. It didn't even get maybe 4 chapters. She went missing, and I think they found her within the same chapter that she went missing. It just was so weird. And she didn't even go missing. She just ran away and hid behind something in a room at the college. It was so boring. It really was. I felt kind of blindsided because it wasn't what I was going into, right? I was going into this girl that went missing on her college campus, not this other family that I don't even remember what happened to them. I just remember being really disappointed by it because I really did think it was going to be kind of interesting, and then I read it and it totally wasn't. But all in all, I didn't like the book at all. That was the first book that I read that I was just genuinely disappointed in. I didn't like it at all, and I was kind of scared to give it a 2 stars because I didn't want to admit to myself that I read this entire book and didn't like it and just kind of essentially wasted my time on it. But I ended up giving it a 2 stars anyways. Again, I am thankful for it because it did show me that I hate detective books. I really do. I really truly do. Also, not to mention, this was like the book number 31 in a series, and I didn't realize it. I didn't know. I thought it was just a beginning book. Obviously, you didn't have to read any of the other books, but you know those detective series where they just go on and on and on, and if you can make money from that, that's great. Fantastic. Keep doing your thing. I don't care for it. I really don't. But I am thankful for the book nonetheless. I'm just gonna go in order here. These are like the old school books that I read before I started this channel that you have probably never heard me talk about, but I'm talking about them now because I feel like I have these pimped up emotions about them that I've never got to voice really. Nick doesn't really care about any of my book stuff. He does listen to me because we're married and he likes to hear me talk and be excited about the things that I'm excited about, but other than that, he probably couldn't care less, like in the slightest. But I will give my next thankful shout out to Cyanide by Ella Fields. This was a book I think I saw on TikTok somewhere that somebody said it was really good. They really liked it. I was ordering something on Amazon and I was like, you know what? I need extra to get free shipping. I'm just gonna pick this up. Why not? Picked it up and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was the first book that I saw on TikTok that I purchased just blindly, and I didn't like it, which is fine. I think it was about like a girl and her dad was super rich and she ended up breaking with her boyfriend at the time because he did something and he left her on a highway or something like that. And she ended up breaking up with him. I think the dad wanted them to get back together and she was like, no. He ended up cutting her off and she finds somebody, the person that picked her up off of the highway. That's what it was. Somebody picked her up off the highway where she was stranded on and took her back. They end up falling in love, and I didn't even know if they ended up falling in love. More, they just ended up having a physical relationship, and I just didn't really care. I really didn't. It was very physical. There wasn't really much emotion, just from what I can remember. But it was like, okay, I really didn't care for it at all. I'm surprised I even remember this much of it, but I do have to give it a little shout out here because, again, that was like the first blind book that I purchased. Honestly, I should have learned at that point. Because still after that, any book that I saw on Book Talk that everybody's like, oh my gosh, this book is fantastic, I just went ahead and got it because I didn't want to have to deal with thumbing through it myself and figuring out what it was about. So if you're thinking about reading it, you can think again. My next thankful shout out is for If He Would Have Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Did I say Lauren? It's been like 3 seconds and I can't even remember. It's Laura Nolan if I said Lauren. I fell in love with this book. This is the first romance. No, I guess I won't say romance because that Cyanide was a romance book. I just didn't really feel like it was. It was very physical. It wasn't the first romance book that I read, but it felt like it. But I absolutely loved this book. I really did. It was the first romance that I gave 5 stars to. All of these books that I'm talking about now are books after the After series. So my getting back into reading, and I'm not really counting any of those in what I'm saying now. I read that book pretty quick. I read it while I was waiting for Nick's deployment meeting or something in the car, and I loved it. I really did. I thought that it was super sweet. I loved that it was like a young romance, so it felt more genuine. My only thing is about that is that I think they were in high school, and so I do feel kind of weird reading romance about younger kids. I don't understand why people write books like that, especially if they're gonna have any spy scenes in it, because this did have one, and so just reading a small spy scene about like young kids, it does feel kind of odd. I don't remember if at this point they turned 18 or not. I really don't, but I just remember being like, okay, you know, I really am enjoying this. I do like it, but I do feel kind of weird for saying that I like it. Like, how do you say that and be like, yeah, I really like this YA romance book, but it's about like kids in high school. I don't know. I really enjoyed them kind of coming together as first loves, and it was so cute. It really was. I loved Finn. I loved any time he came into the picture, like genuinely every scene that he was in, obsessed with. I will say, I did not like Autumn's character. I really didn't. To me, I just didn't really resonate with her character at all, and she didn't really interest me that much. She wasn't that fun to follow along. I thought it was very interesting going through all of her emotions and stuff, like her dating this guy that she's interested in at the time in their friend group, while she has this other lifelong best friend that she is still secretly into, but doesn't really want to do anything about. So I liked kind of watching that. It was sad. It just going through all of like her emotions as a high schooler. It does speak volumes. I really did like witnessing all of this happening through her eyes and stuff, but I didn't really care for her. I did care for Finn. I really liked his scenes a lot more. I liked whenever they came together. I didn't really care about whenever it was just her necessarily, so that's why I am very excited for the second book to come out. I think that having the book from his point of view, I'm going to like it a lot more. I think that it's going to be more enjoyable to read the whole book that he's in and then just have Autumn come in every now and then. I think what made me give this book a 5 stars was like the end, and I'm not saying like the end as in the bad part of the end, I mean like the good part of the end whenever they finally got together. That hit my heart like a freight train. It really did. It just, I absolutely was like giggling in the car. I was like, this is perfect. Finally, like just the slow burn, all of the anticipation of waiting and waiting and waiting, and then finally. And I was like, yes, this is fantastic. I love it. That's honestly very odd for me to say. I didn't really care much about the book as a whole, but the ending and them like going through all of this and then finally getting together, that was, I just loved it. It just genuinely gave me all the emotions, and I still to this day think about like their build up and then just finally, it was so cute. I loved it. I really did. I hate that it was a sad book though, I really do, but I can't help that. That's just what she decided she wanted to do. That's the direction that she wanted to take the book. The high school relationships that you read in these books, there's something so pure about them, and I love that. I love that it's just them trying to figure out their lives, figure out themselves. They're not just super physical at all. It really just is a slow burn all the way up until maybe the end, and that's probably my favorite thing. It's just so refreshing to see. There are romance books out there that just have a really good slow burn, and I like that. So I'm not just into high school romance. That's not what I'm getting at, but I did really like them two as a whole. I liked their childhood friends to growing up lovers. That was so cute. I love that. It's so fun. It's super fun. But I did like the book. I really enjoyed it, and I gave that one a 5 stars. This is the first 5-star romance back into reading, so I'm very thankful for that. Alright, my next thankful shout out is The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I really liked that book, genuinely. I thought it was so different and so unique, and honestly, it's like I can't even talk about this book without spoiling it. It definitely was a little bit hard for me to get through just because it was so in-depth and there was so much information and so many tiny little details everywhere. It was hard for me to keep up with all of them, and I got to the end and I still was kind of confused. I understood what they were getting at and what the point of the ending was, but at the end of the day, I think getting there and getting to the end, I forgot little details that were going on throughout the storyline, and so we got to the end and they would kind of bring up those other details and I totally forgot about them and then didn't quite see how they came together necessarily, so that was somewhat tricky for me, but I did really enjoy it. And that was, I don't know, is that a horror book? Is that classified as horror? So it says that book is a psychological horror book / thriller book. I don't really know what I would classify it as. I don't know what the classifications of a horror book are necessarily, but if that is the case, then that would be the first horror book that I read and gave 5 stars to. I really liked it. It was so unique and so different. It did talk about mental illnesses and stuff like that, and it was just so different. It was not what I was expecting when I picked up the book. Again, I know I say that literally all the time. Being such a fresh reader, I didn't really know what to expect from this at all. I did like it, and reading the back of it, it did sound like it was going to be really good, but it took the hardest turn I absolutely ever could have thought, and I definitely wasn't expecting any of that in the slightest, but I did really, really enjoy it. Such a unique book, something that I feel like I never would have picked up reading myself if I would have known kind of what it was about, but I do think that the plot twist of it made it so fascinating and definitely had a good message to it, I think, at the end of the day. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm remembering that right, but it did shed some light on some harder topics and stuff. Very, very unique. I was not expecting that, but I did really enjoy it. My next thankful shout out is for the Keeper of Enchanted Rooms books, more specifically the Wimble House series. I read that while I was doing a job for my dad. I was doing like a construction cleaning. I was looking for an audiobook that I could listen to while I was doing this job because I was just there for hours cleaning and I really just didn't want to listen to music or anything like that. So I picked this audiobook. I didn't really know what it was about. I read the back of it like 3 times before actually choosing it. And it wasn't sticking in my brain. You know, sometimes when you're trying to find a book and you're reading the back and you read it again, and you just aren't really comprehending it in that moment. So that was kind of what I was doing. I wasn't really comprehending what it was about. And so I think by the 4th time I was looking at it and just and just trying to find something to listen to. I was like, you know what? I just have to find something. I don't really have much time anymore, so I'm just gonna pick this one and listen to that. And I loved it. It was so good. It was so sweet. It was like a cozy mystery type, I guess technically a fantasy. I think some people say it's a cozy fantasy. I don't really think it was that much, but there was like magical elements in it. I wouldn't really say fantasy. I would just say like a cozy book with some magical aspects and stuff. But aside the classification, I really liked it. And also, something else, I loved the audiobook itself. Normally, I'm very picky with the audiobooks, and I will stop an audiobook if I can't stand the narrator's voice. I think I listened to The Quarry Girls, and the narrator, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The narrator was driving me freaking nuts. I couldn't stand her voice. I couldn't stand the way that she's like spoke in the male characters. It just drove me nuts, but I think I ended up just sucking it up because again, I was doing that job. But this one, the woman that narrated it, I think she narrated the last audiobook that I listened to if I'm not mistaken, but she was fantastic. The guy was fantastic. I loved it. I loved listening to it, and that's definitely not something that I would say about any audiobook. Most audiobooks that I listen to have a person in it or a character or a certain actor or whatever. I just don't care for the way that they are speaking the book or just their voice in general, one of the two. But I listened to that one and the second book on audiobook, and I really enjoyed them. I really liked them, and I'm very excited for the third one to come out. I think it's like in January or something if I'm not mistaken. Very excited for that, and I do want the physical copies of these books. That would be so nice. I don't know if I would reread them necessarily, but the covers are super cute, and they're so sweet. I loved them. It was totally unique for me at the time. Definitely something that I've never read before. I wouldn't have expected myself to read them at all, and I don't think that I would have, honestly, if I wasn't doing that job and specifically looking for an audiobook. I would highly recommend. There wasn't like a life or death situation to my recollection. I really liked them. I don't remember much about them, which is kind of crappy, but they were good. I have to do this. I really do. I have to give Lucy Score my next thankful shout out for By a Thread. I read that book. That was my first Lucy Score book, but I got my favorite book quote from that book. I really did. And it was when they were talking about a tight ring of muscle. That's literally what they said. And I cringed so unbelievably hard. That book, the spice scenes in that, oh my gosh, I couldn't. I literally couldn't. I was skipping through them. It was so bad. It was too much. And the wording that she used to describe these scenes was atrocious. Who says that? Literally, who says that? Well, I say it now because I think it's so funny. But it was gross. I literally read it and I was like, no, she did not. She did not just say that. But she did. And now I can't get it out of my head. So thank you, Miss Lucy. I appreciate that, but don't do it again. Please. My next thankful shout out is Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. I think this has probably been my favorite book that I've read this year. I absolutely loved the book. It was so good. I say this knowing fully that most people that would read this book probably won't love it. I liked it because it really just brought out emotion for me. I was getting so riled up. I was getting mad for this lady. I was getting sad for her. I was getting upset. I was rooting for her. Just the whole time. It was so good. There was plot twist and then another plot twist and then another plot twist. It was fantastic. But I know that a lot of people might not like it because it wasn't super anxiety provoking necessarily. It wasn't making my heart race, I don't think, but I do remember that just it brought out so many emotions that I didn't know that I could have towards the book. My jaw was on the floor the entire time I was reading it. I loved the book so much, and it wasn't just because it's like what's gonna happen next, what's gonna happen. You know what's happening, you see what's happening, you can tell what's going to happen, but it's more just like, what are they gonna say, how are they gonna say that, how is this person gonna react, what are they gonna say to her about it. And it was just so, oh my gosh, it was so crazy. The gaslighting in this book, insane. They gaslit her the entire time, and I was like, no way they just said that. No way he doesn't believe her. No way this man is believing his daughter that he hasn't seen in however many years over his wife. It was so good. It was so crazy. I absolutely loved this book. And I know probably a lot of people would say it wasn't that good and they don't understand what I'm talking about or what I see in this book, but I loved it. It was so fabulous. So good. And I do think that it is a Goodreads finalist for like mystery thriller or something like that. I can't vote for it for some reason because my thing tells me to log in or verify my email or something like that every time I try to vote for it, and it won't send me a verification code. So I don't know what's up with that, but I would love to vote for it, but I can't. My next super quick thankful shout out is to Tenders the Flesh. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I really don't. And I don't want to say this. I don't like to say that I love this book, but I loved the book. It was so bad. Like, it was terrible. It really was. It was gross. But it was so good. The book itself was just fantastic. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. But I liked it. I really did. It was so interesting. My problem with this is I could totally see this happening. Like, I literally could. Like, I could see all the vegans being like, oh, we need to get rid of meat, them actually getting rid of meat, and then this happening. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, like, that's a possibility that I could possibly see happening. It's crazy to me. It was so gross. I think just the government aspect and the way that this whole town operated and the way that the government was so for it is just disgusting. But it was so fascinating. It really, truly was fascinating. And I liked it. So I have to give that one a shout out because that's probably very high up on the list of books that I liked this year. And my last thankful shout out to the books that I have read is to Throttled by Lauren Asher. I don't even know why I read this book. I think a lot of people were talking about it on TikTok or just the series in general. And I think it was on Unlimited. I picked it up, read it. I absolutely hated the book. I literally did. It was so bad. I couldn't stand it. I'm not even joking. I got to the most important part, the most eventful scene, and I don't remember any of it. I don't even remember reading it. I don't know if I was asleep or what, but I don't remember a single part of it. And if I can't, like, focus on the most exciting part, the rest of it doesn't matter. I didn't like the book at all. I really couldn't stand it, honestly. It was so bad. In my opinion, if you liked it, that's great. I couldn't stand it. I didn't like the fact that she kept talking about, like, oh, he's my brother's enemy, like, whatever. They're teammates. They compete against each other. He's not, like, you're not enemies. You're not. They're friends. I mean, come on. I didn't like it at all. But I do have to say that I'm thankful for it because I'm thankful that I got to read a book that was so bad that it actually allows me to say that I have books that I just genuinely don't like at all. My next thankful shout out is for the Sarah J. Maas universe. I literally have all of her books. I've not read any of them yet. I don't want to start ACOTAR until after it's done. We already know this, right? I don't need to tell you again like you don't know, but since my memory is so bad, if I start a series and I don't finish it and then I have to wait another year for the next book to come out, I won't remember what happened, especially not enough to jump back into it and just be cool with it, you know? I mean, we probably all just watched Sarah's video about how she hasn't read the ACOTAR series in so long, and she's jumping back into the Court of Silver Flames or whatever that last book is, and she just wasn't really that into it. I don't want to not be into it. I want to give myself full range and ability to actually get into that series. I'm just waiting. I could read Throne of Glass first. I really could, but everybody says not to, and I really do think that ACOTAR is probably the best place to just jump into it. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. If I can't do that, then we'll read Throne of Glass first or something. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't gotten that far yet. Not really planning on reading it anytime soon. But I have them all and I am very eager to start them. I'm curious. I feel like I'm missing out. Next, I am thankful for Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. I have seen this book for so long. I wanted to get it for so long. I finally got it. I have it. It's probably one of my most anticipated books. Do I think I'm gonna like it? I really don't know. Now I have this high expectation that I'm just gonna love it and I have to love this book, or if not, I'm gonna be crushed. But I am very excited to read this book. I'm probably going to read it in a video for like my most anticipated books that I have. Books that I'm absolutely most excited to read. I'm very excited for it. I really hope that it's good. I do want to read it so bad. And I am just antsy to read it. The next one is The Stranger in the Lifeboats by Mitch Albom, I'm pretty sure. I'm also very excited to read that one. I'm in the same boat as the Crossroads one, no pun intended, but seriously, I'm very excited to read both of those. Both of them are probably going to be in the same video for most excited books to read. I think that it's going to be very, like, moral questioning, kind of check yourself, what would you do in these situations? And for me, what would I do in the situations are so difficult for me to answer because I genuinely don't really have strong opinions on anything. I have such a difficult time voicing my thoughts, voicing my opinions, and if I'm not just die hard on something, if I don't have like a die-hard opinion or thought about it, it's hard for me to form my own conclusion, and so I just think it's going to be very interesting, like very unique, and I hope that I do really like it. So I could probably sit here and talk to you about all of the other books that I have on my bookshelves, all the other books that are coming out, all the other books in general that I am very excited to read, which there are a bunch of them, but I would say that those are my most excited to read, my most anticipated ones, the books that I'm just super, super excited for, and I can't wait till I actually get the opportunity to read them. But that being said, I'm not going to go into any other books that I'm excited for. I think those are just my top. I'm very thankful that I have those. I'm very excited to read them, and I can't wait to finally read them. Other than that, if I keep going on and on and on, this video will literally last all day, and we don't want that because I've already been talking a lot longer than I thought I was going to. I thought this was going to be like a 5-10 minute video. No, of course not. Why would it be a 5 to 10 minute video when I'm talking? It's just not possible. But that's gonna be all for today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you resonate with some of these. Obviously, some of them were kind of ridiculous, and I'm thankful that they were bad because of this. But at the end of the day, I am thankful for all the books that I read. I don't necessarily think that I've wasted my time on any of them. I do think that there are good and bad in liking books and disliking them, so I do have to give a little shout out to even the books that I don't like. I don't mind not liking Throttled, right? I'm thankful that I didn't like that one, and it wasn't another book that I was super excited for that I just absolutely couldn't stand. I just wanted to give you a video of me being thankful in the spirit of Thanksgiving, and I hope that you are having a fabulous Thanksgiving. Lastly, I do want to give y'all a humongous thanks. I am very, very, very thankful of each and every single one of you watching this video right now, and each and every single one of you that has subscribed to my channel. I think that is so cool, so fabulous. I did not expect to, like, create an audience at all. I wasn't expecting this to really go anywhere, more just I want to talk, really. I do. I love watching book videos. I think they're so fun, but I don't think that there are a lot of people that I've seen that share my type of views, right? I really don't. I feel like a lot of people don't mind spice at all. They want more spice, and it's just not something that I like all the time. I don't mind it every now and then when the book itself is really good. The spice isn't crazy, it isn't cringy like the Lucy Score one. So I hope that there are some of you out there that do kind of share my views, or if you just like to sit here and listen to me talk, or if I just talk your ear off and you need something for in the background of whatever you're doing. Whatever the case is, I am very grateful that you're here, and I want to thank you so much from the absolute bottom of my heart for being here, for watching this video. I appreciate you. You are fabulous. You are helping me out, and I am very, very grateful for you. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know if you've read any of those books that I mentioned today. Let me know what you thought about them. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what your opinions were, or anything like that. And also let me know in the comments what books that you're thankful for, because I'm curious. Also, if you have any recommendations, of course, leave them for me. And as always, all of these books will be linked down below so that you can check them out if you want to. But thank you so much for being here. I am so appreciative of each and every single one of you. I hope that you either have or are going to have a fabulous Thanksgiving, and I hopefully will get to see you in the next one. See ya!